Amber stood in the kitchen drying dishes when she heard the sound of a suitcase rolling down the hallway. She looked up and saw her husband, Jason, already dressed in jeans and a dark blue shirt, zipping up his overnight bag. "I'm heading to Mark's place," he said, grabbing his keys from the counter. "He's going through a rough time with his divorce. Just needs someone to talk to. I'll be back Sunday night." Amber blinked. It was sudden. "Mark?" He didn't mention anything. Jason smiled, walking up to her and kissing her on the cheek. "It just happened. He called this morning. Said he didn't want to be alone." Amber nodded slowly. "All right, tell him I said hi." Jason grabbed his jacket and walked out the front door. Amber watched him go, something unsettled in her chest, but she pushed it aside. Jason had always been loyal. Quiet. Dependable. Maybe not the most romantic husband in the world, but he never gave her a reason to doubt him. And Mark's divorce? That made sense. Jason had always been close to his brother. She cleaned up the kitchen and took their dog, Max, for a walk. The neighborhood was peaceful, late afternoon sun lighting up the street, a soft breeze brushing the trees. As she passed the corner house next door, she saw someone moving through the window. It was Tessa, their young and newly married neighbor. Amber didn't know her well, just friendly waves and small talk, but Tessa had always been polite. Then Amber's eyes locked on something that made her stop walking. Inside the kitchen, through the half-open curtains, she saw a man's shirt hanging over one of the chairs. Jason's shirt. Her stomach flipped. It was the same navy blue shirt he'd worn yesterday, the one with the faint tear near the bottom button. She had noticed it when she was folding laundry earlier in the week. Jason always said it was his favorite, even though it was old. She stared for a few more seconds, unsure what to think. Maybe it wasn't his. Maybe a lot of people wore blue shirts like that. And maybe she was just imagining things. But it looked exactly like his. Amber tugged at Max's leash and walked away, trying to push the thought out of her mind. Still, something inside her felt tight, like her chest couldn't relax. It wasn't just the shirt. It was how Jason had left. So quickly. No goodbye hug. No details. Just, gone. That evening, she made dinner for one. She kept her phone beside her on the table, half hoping Jason would text. He didn't. No updates. No made it safe. Nothing. She checked his location on their shared app, but it showed he had turned it off. Strange. She sat in silence, staring at her untouched plate of food. It was unlike him not to check in. Jason was a quiet man, but he always let her know when he arrived somewhere. The silence tonight felt cold. Amber got up, took her wine glass, and walked out to the back porch. The sun had gone down now. The house next door was dark except for a single window glowing on the second floor. She squinted, watching shadows move behind the curtain. Were they watching TV? Was someone else there? Stop it, Amber told herself. You're being paranoid. But still, she couldn't shake the image of the shirt. The next morning, she tried to keep herself busy. She did laundry, vacuumed the living room, and called her friend Claire for a quick chat. But her mind kept circling back to that shirt. Finally, she decided to walk Max again, same route, same time. As she walked past Tessa's house, she looked toward the window. The shirt was gone. Amber's stomach twisted. She quickened her pace but made a mental note. She knew what she saw. Back at home, she opened Jason's closet and started checking one shirt after another. Light blue. White. Checkered. Gray. But the navy blue one, the favorite one, was not there. Her hands moved faster now, flipping through hangers. Then she checked the laundry basket, just in case. Nothing. The dryer, empty. She even opened the hallway storage cabinet. No sign of it. She paused. Her heart pounded faster. Still trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, she messaged Jason. Hey babe, how's Mark holding up? Can you send a pic of you too so I can tell him I'm thinking of him? Minutes passed. No reply. She put her phone down, forcing herself to breathe. At around noon, she stepped outside to water the plants and saw Tessa leaving her house, wearing sunglasses and carrying a large tote bag. Tessa didn't notice Amber watching. She got into a car, not her own, and was picked up by a man Amber couldn't see clearly. Now Amber was shaking. This wasn't just a shirt. This was starting to feel like a lie. She walked back inside, sat at the kitchen table, and opened her old photo album. On one page was a picture of Jason and Mark from a camping trip 2 years ago. Jason had worn the exact same shirt. No question. It had a small tear near the hem and a faded patch near the collar. She remembered sewing that tear herself. That night, she didn't sleep. She kept replaying everything: Jason's rushed goodbye, the missing shirt, the turned-off location, Tessa's house, the car. Why lie? Why now? It wasn't like they were unhappy. Their life had become quiet, yes, but not broken. Or maybe she had missed something. Maybe Jason had been drifting for longer than she realized. In the dark, she stared at the empty space on the bed where Jason usually slept. And for the first time in years, Amber felt completely alone. She didn't want to jump to conclusions. But she knew one thing for sure. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And she was going to find out what. Amber sat up in bed before the sun even rose. Her eyes were tired, her thoughts restless. Jason still hadn't responded to her message from the day before. No photo. No call. Not even a simple good morning. The longer the silence stretched, the louder her doubts became. She stared at her phone for a moment, hoping maybe she'd missed a message, but no. Nothing. She opened the bedroom curtains and looked out at the quiet street. Tessa's house stood still, its windows closed, its driveway empty. Amber replayed what she saw the day before: Jason's shirt hanging over that chair. She couldn't deny it anymore. It wasn't just a similar shirt. It was his. And now it was gone. Amber walked to Jason's closet again. She went through every item, checking shirt after shirt with shaking hands. Still no navy blue shirt. She ran down to the laundry basket. Nothing. Then to the dryer, the washer, even the bathroom hamper. Still nothing. It wasn't in the car trunk, the hallway closet, or his gym bag. It was just gone. And Jason still hadn't answered her message. She opened his drawer and flipped through his stuff, looking for anything strange. But everything looked normal: his watch, his wallet, receipts, nothing suspicious. But then she paused. His cologne bottle was missing. He had taken it with him. For a weekend with his brother? That didn't sit right. Amber's hands trembled slightly. She didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was stacking up fast. Still, she needed more. She wasn't going to accuse Jason without being 100% sure. Not after 10 years of marriage. She needed to stay calm. So she made a decision. She would go next door. It was just after 10 a.m. when Amber walked up to Tessa's front porch. She carried a half-empty container of sugar as her excuse. She rang the doorbell, and after a few seconds, Tessa opened the door. Her hair was damp from a recent shower, and she looked surprised, maybe even nervous, to see Amber standing there. "Hey." "Good morning," Tessa said, forcing a smile. "Hi," Amber replied softly. "Sorry to bother you. I ran out of sugar while baking. Could I borrow some?" "Oh. Sure, yeah, of course. Come in," Tessa said quickly, stepping aside. Amber entered, her heart pounding in her chest. The kitchen was clean. Too clean. No breakfast plates, no mugs, no signs anyone else had been there. Tessa opened the cabinet and pulled down a sugar jar. As she poured it into a cup for Amber, Amber's eyes scanned the kitchen. The chair where the shirt had been draped yesterday was empty now. Nothing was out of place. The shirt was gone. "You okay?" Tessa asked, glancing at her. Amber snapped out of it. Oh, yes, just tired. Rough night. Thanks so much. Tessa smiled again, but there was tension behind it. Amber walked out slowly, her eyes taking in every detail, the hallway, the coat rack, the faint scent in the air. It was familiar. Jason's cologne. She got home, placed the sugar cup on the counter, and leaned against the sink. It wasn't in her head. Something had happened. She picked up her phone and called Jason again. Straight to voicemail. Then she did something she rarely did. She called Mark. Jason's brother picked up after the second ring. Amber? Everything okay? Amber kept her voice calm. Hey, just wanted to say thanks for letting Jason stay with you this weekend. He told me you were having a tough time. There was a pause. What? Mark said. Amber's throat went dry. Didn't he stay with you? No. I haven't seen Jason in a few months, actually. Why? What's going on? Amber forced a laugh. Oh, probably a miscommunication. I'll talk to him. Thanks, Mark. She ended the call quickly and dropped the phone on the table. So he had lied. Jason never went to Mark's house. He had been somewhere else. And she was almost sure now, he had been next door. She sat there in silence, hands clenched into fists. She had no proof yet, but her gut was screaming. Something between Jason and Tessa wasn't right. Amber was done pretending. Later that afternoon, while taking Max for another walk, she stopped outside Tessa's trash bin. Her heart raced. She looked around, no one was watching. She lifted the lid and saw nothing unusual, wrappers, empty cartons, paper towels. But then, beneath a layer of grocery bags, something caught her eye. A crumpled piece of paper. Amber pulled it out carefully. It was a receipt. From a boutique hotel just 10 minutes away. Room 214. 2 guests. 2 breakfast orders. 1 room, 2 nights. She stared at the date. Yesterday. And just below the printed text, was handwriting. A note, scribbled in pen. Same time next weekend? Amber froze. The handwriting was Jason's. She knew it. She had seen that lazy loop in the S too many times. Tears welled in her eyes. The hotel. The shirt. The cologne. The silence. The neighbor. It all made sense now. He had lied. He was cheating. She stood still for a moment, the breeze brushing against her face, the sound of birds chirping in the background, life going on as if everything was normal. But her world had changed in seconds. Amber folded the receipt and slipped it into her coat pocket. She didn't know what she'd do next, but one thing was clear. She was done being blind. Amber sat on the living room couch, holding the crumpled hotel receipt in her hands. She read it again. Room 214. 2 guests. A handwritten note, same time next weekend? Jason's handwriting, no doubt. There was no mistaking that lazy S and the curve of his T. It felt like the paper burned in her hand. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes remained dry. The pain wasn't sharp anymore, it had turned into something colder. Something quieter. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She sat still, letting the truth soak into every part of her. Jason had lied. He hadn't gone to Mark's. He'd gone to a hotel. With someone. And all signs pointed to Tessa, the neighbor next door. Amber could have run over to that house and banged on the door. She could have waited until Jason got home and thrown the receipt in his face. But something in her told her to wait. If she reacted too fast, he'd lie again. Twist it. Deny everything. That's what cheaters do. So instead, she planned. She hid the receipt in her jewelry box, wrapped it in an old scarf Jason never paid attention to. Then she pulled out her phone and opened the Photos app. She took a clear picture of the receipt, including the handwritten note. She saved it in a hidden album. Then, just to be safe, she emailed it to herself. Next, she called her friend Claire. "Can we meet for coffee tomorrow?" Amber asked, keeping her voice steady. "Of course. Everything okay?" Claire replied. "I'll explain then," Amber said. That night, Amber barely slept. But she didn't toss and turn like the night before. She laid flat, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, her mind turning like gears in a machine. She was done feeling sorry. She was done asking why. She wanted to know how long. She wanted the truth. She needed to hear it from Jason's mouth, and she had to be smart to get it. The next morning, Amber acted like everything was normal. She made herself toast. She watered the plants. She even texted Jason a good morning message. He replied 3 hours later. "Sorry, babe. Busy night with Mark." Heading back around 4. Amber stared at the screen. She didn't reply. At exactly 4:16 p.m., Jason walked through the door with a fake tired face and his overnight bag slung over his shoulder. "Hey," he said, walking in and kissing her on the cheek. "Long weekend." "Mark's a mess." Amber smiled gently. "Glad you were there for him." He sat on the couch, kicked off his shoes, and turned on the TV like nothing happened. Amber stood silently, watching him. Later that night, when Jason was taking a shower, Amber picked up his phone from the nightstand. She tried his usual passcode. Wrong. Tried again. Still wrong. He had changed it. She placed it back carefully. He was hiding more than she thought. She lay in bed beside him, listening to him breathe. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying her plan. The next day, she called Mark again. This time, she didn't pretend. "I need the truth," she said quietly. Mark was silent for a second. "Amber, what's going on?" "He told me he stayed with you this weekend," she said. "You said he didn't." "I just need to hear it clearly." Mark sighed. "He didn't stay here. I thought maybe he just didn't tell you the truth and I didn't want to cause trouble." "There's more, isn't there?" Amber said. "You know something." Another pause. Then Mark spoke, slowly. "A few months ago, Jason called me. Said he was feeling trapped. Said he needed space. Said he met someone who made him feel alive again." Amber closed her eyes. "Did he say who?" she asked. "No," Mark replied. "I told him he was making a mistake. We haven't talked since. He stopped picking up my calls." "Thank you," Amber said quietly. "That's all I needed." She ended the call and sat down at the kitchen table. It was all real. Jason had been cheating for months. Not just this weekend. She thought about their quiet dinners. The times he seemed distant but blamed work. The missed calls. The short trips. It had been happening right under her nose. And now, she was done being fooled. Amber knew she couldn't just explode. Not yet. She needed solid proof. Something undeniable. She had an idea. That evening, she walked over to Tessa's house again. This time, she didn't bring sugar. She knocked once. Tessa opened the door, looking surprised again. "Hey! Everything okay?" she asked. Amber forced a smile. "Actually, I found something weird I thought you should know. Someone went through my trash. I figured I'd ask if anyone saw anything suspicious yesterday." Tessa blinked. "Your trash?" Amber nodded. "Yeah. Just wondering if any neighbors noticed anything." Tessa looked nervous, but shook her head. "No, I didn't see anything." "All right. Just thought I'd ask," Amber said sweetly. "Thanks anyway." As Amber turned to leave, she looked over Tessa's shoulder. There, on the hallway table, was Jason's cologne. She recognized it instantly. A silver and black bottle she had gifted him on their anniversary last year. He had taken it with him. And left it here. She didn't flinch. She didn't stare too long. She walked back to her house like nothing had happened. But inside, her blood was boiling. She sat down and wrote everything out. Dates. Details. Every lie Jason had told in the past 3 months. She printed the hotel receipt, saved the photo, and even pulled bank statements showing Jason's payments to that same hotel multiple weekends in a row. She wasn't going to scream. She wasn't going to beg. She was going to destroy him calmly. And she would start by watching him fall. Amber didn't cry anymore. She didn't ask why Jason had cheated or what she did wrong. She didn't waste time guessing how many weekends he had spent next door. She already knew. The cologne on Tessa's hallway table told her everything. The hotel receipt sealed it. And her gut, which she had doubted for too long, had been right from the beginning. Jason had betrayed her. Tessa had smiled to her face. And now, they both thought they'd gotten away with it. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Amber began calmly. She started with screenshots. She created a private folder on her laptop labeled receipts, and it wasn't just metaphorical. She uploaded the hotel receipt photo. Then she added bank statements with repeated weekend charges from the same hotel. She matched the dates with Jason's brother visits and work trips. She also wrote down details from conversations, timestamps, what Jason said, how his story changed each time. She added the conversation she had with Mark and even sent him a follow-up message. "Thank you for telling me the truth. I won't drag you into this, but I needed to know for myself." Then she took one final step. She reached out to a divorce lawyer. She didn't file anything yet, just got information. Quietly. Safely. No one knew. Not even Claire. Amber wanted to be in control from the first moment to the last. And when the moment came, she'd make sure Jason never saw it coming. For the next few days, Amber acted like the perfect wife. She cooked dinner. Smiled when Jason walked in. Laughed at his small talk. She even complimented his haircut. All the while, she counted how many lies he told her. 7 on Monday. 3 on Tuesday. 5 on Wednesday. She wrote each one down in a small red notebook hidden inside her desk. Then came Saturday. Amber knew from the receipt that Jason had planned another weekend getaway. Same time next weekend? It had said. So when Saturday morning arrived, she watched him closely. Sure enough, Jason walked into the bedroom with his small overnight bag, dressed in jeans and a fresh button-down shirt. "Mark's having another rough weekend," he said casually. "He asked if I could come stay again." Amber nodded, pretending to look worried. "He's really not doing well, huh?" Jason sighed dramatically. "It's been rough for him. I'll be back Sunday night." Amber gave him a kiss on the cheek. "Drive safe." Jason smiled, then left without a second glance. Amber didn't follow him. She didn't need to. She already knew where he was going. But someone else did follow him. Claire. Amber had asked her to wait down the street in her car and quietly tail Jason once he left the neighborhood. Claire wasn't happy about it at first. "Are you sure you want to know?" she had asked, but Amber's voice had been firm. "I already know. I just want pictures." 30 minutes later, Claire messaged her. "He's not at Mark's. He pulled into that same hotel. Same one you showed me." Then another message. "He's not alone. She just pulled up. It's your neighbor." Amber read the texts with a strange calm in her chest. There it was. The final confirmation. She wasn't broken anymore. She was ready. That evening, Amber gathered everything, receipts, screenshots, photos Claire had just taken of Jason and Tessa walking into the hotel. She placed it all into a small manila folder. Then she printed a second copy and labeled it. "To whom it may concern." The next morning, Amber didn't sleep in. She got dressed, fixed her hair, and walked straight to Tessa's house with the envelope in her hand. She rang the bell. Tessa opened the door, wearing a robe and looking surprised, maybe even nervous. "Amber." "Good morning." Amber handed her the envelope. "What's this?" Tessa asked. "Proof," Amber said calmly. "Of everything. You can decide what to do with it." "But I already made up my mind." Tessa stared at her, confused. "Amber, I don't need an apology," Amber interrupted. "Just don't ever wave at me again." She turned and walked away. Later that afternoon, Jason came home, humming under his breath. "Back," he called out. Amber was sitting on the couch, dressed nicely, with a small stack of papers on the table in front of her. Jason paused when he saw her. "What's all this?" he asked, setting down his bag. Amber stood up slowly and looked him in the eyes. "You lied to me. Repeatedly. You cheated on me. Not once. Not by accident. You made a choice over and over again." Jason's face turned pale. "Amber, I can explain." "No. I already got your explanation," she said, sliding the folder across the table. "I talked to Mark. I saw the receipt. Claire followed you. I know everything." Jason opened the folder and saw the photos, the printouts, the notes. His mouth opened but no words came out. "I'm filing for divorce," Amber said. "I already met with the lawyer. You'll get the papers this week." Jason stumbled back. "Amber, wait, we can fix this." "We," she said, laughing bitterly. "There hasn't been a we 4 months. You ended that the first time you walked into her house behind my back." He looked at her, stunned. "But why now?" he asked. "Why today?" Amber picked up the small red notebook. "Because I wanted you to know I knew everything. I wanted you to feel safe, thinking you got away with it, until you didn't." Jason dropped into the chair, speechless. Then Amber said the last thing he ever expected. "By the way, your shirt. The one you love so much. I saw it in her house the first day you lied to me. That's how I knew. You left your truth hanging in her kitchen." Then she walked out the front door and didn't look back.